parable series, the teachings of Jesus and kind of the stories that he told and everything, and how it's relevant to our lives now. And the parables we'll be looking at tonight are the lost sheep and the lost coin. And I really love the parables of Jesus. I mean, they're just awesome stories. He's kind of like that uncle you have that is just so good at telling stories. I mean, you get your whole family around him to just listen to his stories. And they might be crazy, they might not make sense at first, but they always have a deeper meaning to them. You know, he was such a good storyteller. He was so down to earth, and he was just really good at telling stories. So this is the first part of a two-part series. We're going to look at lost, kind of being lost, and everything, and then next week we'll look at being found, so lost and found. Can someone please read the two parables? You can split it up between two people. So someone please read the first parable of the lost sheep in Luke 15. Reading room? Oh, awesome.
Now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear him, but the Pharisees and the teachers of the law muttered, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." Then Jesus told them this parable. Suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Does he not leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it? And when he finds it, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders and goes home. Then he calls his friends and neighbors together and says, "Rejoice with me, I have found my lost sheep." I tell you that in the same way there will be more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who do not need to repent.
Thank you. And the lost coin.
Or suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. Doesn't she light a lamp, sweep the house, and search carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she calls her friends and neighbors together and says, "Rejoice with me, I have found my lost coin." In the same way, I tell you, there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents.
Thank you. Kim showed me a very nice video on the lost sheep that I kind of want to play for you. It's a little animated cartoon, and I think you guys will like it. So I want you to just watch it right now. I don't think that won any awards for being the best picture, but I thought it was just a good example, just to kind of visualize a cute little story like that. But I want to look now at what it means to be lost. And I looked up in the dictionary the definition of lost, and I kind of have it behind me. And as you can see, there is just a long list of ways to describe being lost. And I looked at them, and I could relate to every one of them, being lost in that way at some point in my life. And I'm sure you guys can too. Not being made use of, no longer possessed, no longer known, ruined, or destroyed, unable to find the way, there's no longer visible, helpless, absorbed, obscure, futile. Those are all things that we've probably felt in our life at some point in time. And some of us might be feeling it right now. But that's what I want to talk about tonight, is kind of how we can get lost and how we can get out of that with God's help. Can someone please read Isaiah 53:6?
All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all.
That is a very true statement. We've all done that at some point. Tried to do things our own way, tried to turn away from God, and lead our lives separately. And God uses us as an example of sheep, which is just spot on. Have you guys ever been around sheep? They're kind of weird animals. They're, in my opinion, they're pretty blah, but there's really, they're not anything special. They kind of smell funny. They're dumb. They're kind of dumb animals. And, we can kind of be like that too. But to the shepherd, they're the most important thing in the world. It's the shepherd's livelihood to tend the sheep, to care for the sheep, to lead them, to keep them from trouble and harm. And that's what God is to us. We might not seem anything special, but to God, we are his livelihood. We are that special to him. So we looked at what it means to be lost, kind of the definition. And the next question I want to ask is, how do we get lost? Like, what is it, how do we get so lost in this life? And the simple answer, there's a million answers for this, how you get lost. But the simple answer is we follow anything that doesn't lead us to God. So if you're not going towards God, then that must mean you're going away from him. And in that cute little video, the sheep was chasing the butterfly. And butterflies are good, they're cool. Actually, really, I do think butterflies are really cool, like caterpillar into a butterfly. I actually read that when the caterpillar morphs into the butterfly, it becomes pure liquid, like in the cocoon, and then it morphs into the butterfly, which is just cool science stuff. And I'm not condemning butterflies, like the sheep chase the butterfly, so don't go chase the butterfly. That's not bad, but if the butterflies in your life lead you away from God, then that's a problem. God tells us not to chase them because he knows they could lead us astray. So this next part, I want to talk about how we get lost. And I'm just going to throw some examples from my life, but I want you guys to write down in your notes or make a mental note of things that get you lost, things that take you away from God. And I want you to focus on avoiding those or focus on ways to get around those so you don't get lost. But some examples I could think of, and like I said, there are millions of ways to get lost with things in this world. But one of the things that I could think of was distractions. And I know Winter Retreat kind of talked about that, but I thought of stuff. When I was a kid, my first real job, with taking taxes out and actually filling out all the paperwork was working on a farm as a hoer. You hoe the weeds, you go and down the rows and you get the weeds out. And I was like 10 years old, and my parents got me this job because I really wanted it, and I wanted to make some money. And after, I think it was like 3 days of work, I made $30, and then I quit. So I could buy a Lego Star Wars X-Wing fighter. It was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. I almost ran home yesterday to get it, to bring it here, because it was just like the movie. The wings would fold out to go into attack mode. You had Luke Skywalker and R2-D2 with his blue lightsaber. I had never had a blue lightsaber. I had 5 green and 2 red, but never had a blue lightsaber. So this was legit. I mean, this was cool, right? Wrong. It was plastic. It was probably overpriced, and it was silly. But I was so focused on that I could have worked the whole summer and bought Rogue Squadron with all the money that I would have made. I could have bought like 10 X-Wings and went crazy, but I was so focused and so distracted on getting just the one X-Wing that I quit my job and spent the rest of the summer blowing up my X-Wing and putting it back together and then doing all sorts of kid stuff. But that's one thing, is stuff that can just take us away from God and take our focus away from Him. Another thing I thought of was friends. When I was in high school, I was Mr. Popular, or at least I tried to be. I was, the funny guy. But the way I was funny, I was very perverted with my jokes. I made fun of my friends when they weren't around. I pretty much did everything I could to get the attention on me and try to make people laugh. And one of the things I remember when first coming to his house and being a Christian was, I'll come to his house meetings and I'll hang out, but I can't give up my current lifestyle because I won't be as funny if I give my life to God than what I am now, because everyone loves me and everyone thinks I'm hilarious. People tell me all the time, all sorts of stuff. And that was one of my fears, or my distractions, was my friends. I cared more about what they thought about me than what God did. And actually ended up giving in and really changing my life with the way I acted and behaved and the way I made jokes and everything. And I actually think it made me more funny. Right? Is that what you guys think? Maybe I'm kind of funny? But yeah, that was one of my distractions. That was one thing that led me away from God, was my friends and I guess my attitude towards them. Another thing I thought of that could be a distraction is TV, music, entertainment, things like that. Again, with my friends, we had a certain type of show that we watched, a certain type of movie that we watched that was just not God-pleasing, and I also didn't want to give that up. But looking back, that was very foolish and selfish to not see how that was a distraction from God. Something else I thought of was curiosity. Sometimes we get curious with things in life. We see something and we know it's not good, but like the sheep chasing the butterfly, you just kind of want to go after it and just kind of see what it's about, see why everyone likes it so much, and we can get into a lot of trouble doing that. We can get lost. And sometimes we simply get lost in the craziness of this world. The story of the coin. The coin didn't go chasing after a butterfly. The coin just got lost. It happens. This world is crazy, and it's easy to get lost if our focus isn't fully on God all the time. And we might not realize we get lost. We might not know it. Sometimes when you're lost, you don't know you're lost until you get super lost. And a lot of times when I drive somewhere with my fiance, I don't use the GPS, or I try not to use directions because I know where I'm going. I've been to Detroit once. How big is Detroit, right? and then we, take a wrong turn and go by buildings I've never seen before, but it's okay, babe. I just want to take you by this blue house. Because blue's your favorite color. No, green's my favorite color. Oh, okay. We're lost, babe. I'm sorry. And we're late, and people are mad at me, but that's a different story. Sometimes pride can get in the way, and guys know what I'm talking about. But that can be a distraction, because sometimes you don't even know you're lost. You think you know what you're doing, but unless you get directions from God, you don't know where you're going. And then sometimes we want to run away. We want false freedom. We think that there's freedom without God. We try to do things on our own. We want to be free. We don't like where God is leading us. The story of Jonah. God called him to go to Nineveh, but he didn't want to. So he got on a boat, and he tried to run away. He tried to break free, tried to do things his own way, and God caught up with him. And sometimes we think God doesn't love us. We get in tough situations. We don't think God is there. We don't see him in that situation. I have a friend who I have a Bible study with, and he has been doing some police training to minister to inner city youth, I guess, that kind of get caught up in the law and prison and stuff. And he was telling me that the cops have all these stories of guys getting arrested. They get thrown in the back of the police car, and then first thing they say is, "Man, where is God in this situation? How did this happen? Where is God?" And they can't see God in that situation because they're lost, but God is right there with them. God is there to comfort them. He's there to be with them when, of course, they make bad choices, because that's exactly what got them in the back of the police car, was bad choices. They tried to do things on their own. They got lost. They got in trouble with the law. But sometimes we think that God doesn't love us when really he does, and he's there for us. So a main point that I want to make is Jesus is always searching for us. Like we read in the two stories, Jesus is always searching for us. Can someone read Luke 19:9 and 10?
Jesus said to him, "Today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is the son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost."
Jesus just said that's the whole reason he came to earth, is to seek and to save the lost. He came here for us, for when we get lost, to find us, to seek us, and to save us. Jesus came for sinners, and there's countless examples of him eating with sinners, of him hanging out with sinners, of him spending time with sinners. Two that I just like us to look at is Luke 15:1, which we read earlier, but I want us to focus on it, and then Matthew 9:9 through 13.
Now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear him, but the Pharisees and the teachers of the law muttered, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them."
That's good.
As Jesus went on from there, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the tax collector's booth. "Follow me," he told him, and Matthew got up and followed him. While Jesus was having dinner at Matthew's house, many tax collectors and sinners came and ate with him and his disciples. When the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" On hearing this, Jesus said, "It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. But go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. For I have come to call the righteous, for I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners."
Yep. Jesus came to earth for sinners. There's a couple other examples. There's in Luke 7, the sinful woman anoints Jesus' feet, cries on him with the perfume and stuff. And he tells a great story about that, about him coming to earth for sinners. There's the story of Zacchaeus in Luke 19, how Jesus came to seek and to save the lost. He came here for us. Jesus is open to sinners, to eating with them, and willing to share life and just reach out to them. And he does the same thing for us. For whatever reason you're lost. If you're a tax collector, Jesus came here to seek and to save you. Jesus is reaching out for you. There's always hope when you're lost. Don't ever think you're lost beyond where Jesus can search for you. And, this isn't just a story or a message for non-believers to convert to become believers. This isn't just a one-time thing. This is for believers also. I've been a believer for a while, but I still need Jesus to seek and to save me every once in a while. Whether it's getting lost in my thoughts, getting lost in sin, getting lost in sports. Sometimes I take sports too seriously, and it's a distraction from God, and I get consumed by Michigan football. Jesus is always there to seek and to save me from that. Going back to the actual parable of the sheep, the image it portrays is just great. Jesus as our shepherd, he's willing to leave the safety of the open country time and time again to venture into whatever trouble we get into. It's not just us getting into trouble, getting lost. It's Jesus risking his life to go out and to find us when we're lost. That's what he did for us. And then he lays us on his shoulders every time because we are too weak, we're too lost, we're too tired to come back on our own. He drags us out of trouble. He carries us out on his shoulders. And he does this every time. You'd think after a while he'd just chain us to the fence post. This is the 8th time that you've been lost, in the last 2 days. You're staying put, you're sticking here. But that's not what he does. He doesn't just cut off our legs so we can't go anywhere. Speaking of that, where do you find a sheep with no legs?
The bottom.
Where?
Right where you left him. But I told you guys that was funny, right? Thanks, man. He doesn't do any of that. He loves us. As soon as he brings us back, he rejoices with us. He rejoices every time. Every time he saves us, he rejoices with us. And just like the woman turning the house upside down, searching until she finds it, God will never stop searching for us. And I found it very interesting that he used the image of a woman losing the coin and looking for it. And Troy shared this with me from the NIV Study Bible. And I'm going to share this with you. Palestinian women received 10 silver coins as a wedding gift. Besides their monetary value, these coins held sentimental value, like that of a wedding ring, and to lose one would be extremely distressing. So to God, not only do we have monetary value, just as his creation, as things he made, but we are like a wedding ring. We are that special to God. We are the most valuable possession he owns because of that relationship he has with us, because of that breathing into our nostrils that he did. He didn't just form us out of dirt, but he breathed into our nostrils. He's on a very personal level with us, and he cares very deeply when we do get lost. And looking at these two stories, I just kind of pictured grace. Like, I just love the idea of grace. I have been on like a couple week-long trip on just grace and what it means and what it is. And I thought of the Phil Wickham song, Amazing Grace, And this is unfailing love, that you would take my place, that you would bear my cross, that you would lay down your life, that I would be set free. Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. That's the whole idea of grace, is that Jesus time and time again comes to seek us and to save us whenever we go astray. And there's two last verses I want to leave you with. John 10:11 and John 14:18.
I will not leave you as orphans, I will come to you.
I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep.
That is Jesus' entire MO. That's his thing. Is he just continually lays down his life for us, risking everything, coming to seek and save us when we're lost. And I've talked about being lost for a while, and there is going to be a baptism tonight, and that's kind of what I want to talk about for a little bit. Is if you're lost in this world and you haven't committed your life to Christ yet, now's the perfect opportunity. The baptismal is warm. We're already going to be celebrating one baptism. It would be great if we could celebrate more, guys. Jesus came because he loves you, and anything that you're lost in, he can pull you out. He can find you. He is there for you. You just have to turn around and say, yes, Jesus, yes, I accept. I'm lost. I need your help. I don't want to do things my own way. I don't want to live this life anymore. Whatever your excuses, whatever your thought process is, if it doesn't involve Jesus saving you, then it's wrong. And that's really what I want to press upon you guys tonight, is if you haven't accepted Jesus, now's the night to do it. There's no need to wait. There's no excuse not to. If you don't want to be lost anymore, if you just want to feel found and loved, that's what Jesus can give to you. That's what he is here for. He's here for you. And if you're telling yourself that you can do it on your own, that you've got it figured out, that you don't need Jesus, then you're lying. You're lying to yourself, and you're lying to everyone around you. And it's just so important that you just reach out to Jesus, because he's reaching out to you. And that's what I want you guys to think about tonight, if you haven't. And if you have, that's awesome. That's great, guys. You are just so in tune. You are so on the right path. Even if you feel lost, Jesus is still reaching out for you. And he can bring you right back onto the right path. And I want us to spend this next week just rejoicing, like constant, not partying, but just a constant happiness that regardless of if you were lost and are found, or if you're still lost, that Jesus is there for you, that he loves you, and next week we can rejoice over being found, and that's what I will talk about next week. But thank you guys for coming tonight. Would you please pray with me?